Jamaica, man bites dog. Isn't that bizarre? You know, media houses used to teach a foundational rule. Dog bites man isn't news. That's routine. That's expected. It doesn't sell. But man bites dog. That is sensational. That is different. And that is what pulls the audience. The modern independent blogger, the WhatsApp mercenary, the political troll, they understand this rule ultimately. Decently doesn't monetize. Truth doesn't trend. Outrage is a currency of our time. And because these independent actors refuse to regulate themselves, because there is zero internal moral compass to stop the spread of a lie that can destroy a family, the state is being forced into a corner. Recently, you may have seen the Minister of Health, Dr. Christopher Tufton, where he stood before Parliament during the sectorial debate and sounded a massive alarm. He didn't frame this as a political spat. He framed it as a public health emergency. He brought the data to the table, and it shows 64% of our children under 14 and nearly half of our adolescents are showing deep psychological strain, anxiety, and depression directly linked to this toxic online environment. Minister Tufton looked at the nation and called it what it is, a free-for-all, a digital landscape where 36% of local content creators are openly pushing material involving physical altercations, and 29% are standardizing aggressive behavior. Why? Just to get views. In other words, we are normalizing vulgarity, and it is deforming the minds of our youth. And so, under Minister Tufton's CARE agenda, the government is now moving decisively to build a legislative framework aiming to regulate, moderate, or even completely restrict social media access for anyone under 16. Bloggers, take heed. Sometimes we are like people watching a house catch fire while arguing about the price of water. And that is exactly where we find ourselves today in our national political dialogue. It seems like the digital architecture of our society is burning to the ground, and we are treating it like a casual, everyday debate. Look at what we are doing to ourselves, friends. Look at the absolute nastiness slung back and forth on our timelines. Look at the venom targeting Prime Minister and even the opposition leader in the last election. Look at the scorched earth campaigns executed across fractions. The fact is, no hands are clean here. No hands are clean at all. Nobody's spared. Tribal warfare wrapped in a high-speed data connection, and it does not stop. Even today, you open your phone and what do you see? Social media is plastered top to bottom with unverified allegations and rumors. The latest one is some alleged deeds of Peter Bunting. You know, there's scandal after scandal treated as absolute gospel before a single shred of actual proof is ever presented to a court of law. Social media in Jamaica has become a hot mess. It has what I would call an algorithmic coliseum where reputations go to die. But as ugly as it is right now, we have to face a terrifying truth. You see, when government having to decide to legislate human values, it can get messy, real messy. And so I would say to the government, before you take the heavy-handed, blunt instrument of the law to slash at free expression, look at what else you can actually do. What are the options on the table that don't involve state censorship? A few exist. We could aggressively pursue financial and ad revenue decoupling. Starve the toxic actors. If the state and major corporate entities pull every cent of advertising from networks and platforms that amplify unverified character assassination, the economic incentive to destroy people vanishes overnight. We could legally demand algorithmic transparency from the tech giants operating in our borders. We don't have to ban the words people say. We can force platforms to alter the underlying code so that the man bites dog outrage threads stop getting shoved onto our citizens' notifications. We could build and fund massive independent, non-partisan fact-checking ecosystems and robust civil legal funds, making it swift and affordable for regular citizens to sue bloggers for defamation, raising the personal financial risk of lying. Make it so high that self-preservation forces decency. But let us be blunt and be fair with ourselves. We can talk about these alternatives all day long, but deep down, we know why legislation might be the only way left seemingly. It is clear that we have tried the honor system. For over a decade, we watched the tech giants and independent digital creators look us in the eye and promise they would self-regulate. And they didn't. They didn't regulate because polarization is profitable. Anger keeps eyes on screens. When a system is fundamentally engineered to reward the worst of human behavior, you cannot ask the system to fix itself. There have to be safeguards. And of course, there's going to be the cry of, what about free speech? That is legitimate. But free speech has never meant absolute consequence-free anarchy. Free speech does not mean you are allowed to yell fire in a crowded movie theater when there is no flame, causing a stampede that crushes innocent people to death. That old adage remains a pillar of civilized society for a reason. When digital campaigns transition from robust political critique into systematic harassment, coordinated doxing, and psychological warfare, it ceases to be expression, my friends. It becomes a public safety hazard. It becomes a fire in a theater. And look around the world. This isn't some novel authoritarian experiment we are inventing in a vacuum. Governments everywhere are reaching the exact same breaking point. Look at what's happening globally. Right now, Australia has already stepped over the line, passing a historic law completely banning children under 16 from having social media accounts, making the tech companies legally liable. As a matter of fact, right now, the United Kingdom and Canada, as well as nations across the globe, are drafting and pushing through parallel legislation of this nature. Again, bloggers beware. Our own parliament is looking at the same horizon, debating how to protect the next generation from an environment where vulgarity, Cyberbullying and character assassination have been completely normalized. And some politician has endorsed and supported that. But they too are getting bitten where it hurts. And so the state has every reason, every obligation to want to do something. People have actually taken their lives because of cyberbullying. But this is where the government has to thread the needle with the precision of a surgeon. If a ruling party passes an online safety law that looks even remotely like it was designed to protect politicians from being criticized, they will lose their supporters in the blink of an eye. The Jamaican electorate can smell self-preservation from a mile away. If the public thinks the state is using the law to shield itself from accountability, the political backlash will be catastrophic. And of course, there is the judgment of history, the grand sweeping risk of the slippery slope. You see, when you give a government the power to legislate values, you're asking the state to define what a good value is and what a bad value is, if there's such a thing. And the most terrifying lesson of human history is this: the legal tools and censorship frameworks built by a well-meaning government today to stop a toxic blogger will and can invariably be narrated by a malicious government tomorrow to silence a legitimate investigative journalist and opposition leader or even a protesting citizen. And so once you open the door to state-regulated speech, you cannot control who walks through that door next. Of course, there's a desperate need for something. We cannot keep living in this digital wasteland where reputations are slaughtered for clicks. And so, friends, let's face it, free speech will be regulated in some form or another. That choice has already been made by the chaos of our global environment. But the path forward cannot be about the state dictating what we are allowed to think or say. The only way to stand on the right side of history is to legally dismantle the predatory engineering, I think anyways, to pass laws that hold platforms accountable for the algorithms that weaponize anger and turn our society against itself. So let us stop standing on the pavement. Let us stop debating the price of water while the structure burns. Safeguard the people, yes. Protect the children, absolutely. But never, ever give up the right to speak the truth to power. Mr. Tufton, over to you. Friends, this has been Dear Jamaica, We Need to Talk. One people, one vision, one country, under God. See you next time.
Dear Jamaica,
Here we come,
one people, one nation,
standing tall,
under God.
strong and free,
Jamaica,
the land we love.